ओम गणानां त्वा गणपतिगुं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपमश्रवस्तमं ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणां ब्रह्मणस्पत आनशृण्वन्नोतिभिः सीदसादनम्। ओम महागणपतये नमः। ओम भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः, भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः, स्थिरैरङ्गैः स्तुष्टुवागुंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः। स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः, स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः, स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः, स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु। ओम शांति शांति शांतिः। ओम नमस्ते गणपतये। त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं तत्त्वमसि, त्वमेव केवलं कर्तासि, त्वमेव केवलं धर्तासि, त्वमेव केवलं हर्तासि, त्वमेव सर्वं खल्विदं ब्रह्मासि। त्वं साक्षादात्मासि नित्यं ऋतं वच्मि सत्यं वच्मि। अव त्वं माम् अववक्तारम् अवश्रोतारम् अवदातारम् अवधातारम् अवानूचानमवशिष्यम् अवपश्चात्तात् अवपुरस्तात् अवोत्तरात्तात् अवदक्षिणात्तात् अवचोर्ध्वात्तात् अवाधरात्तात् सर्वतो मां पाहि पाहि समन्तात्। त्वं वाङ्मयस्त्वं चिन्मयः, त्वमानन्दमयस्त्वं ब्रह्ममयः, त्वं सच्चिदानन्दाद्वितीयोऽसि, त्वं प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्मासि, त्वज्ञानमयो विज्ञानमयोऽसि। सर्वं जगदिदं त्वत्तो जायते, सर्वं जगदिदं त्वत्तस्तिष्ठति, सर्वं जगदिदं त्वयि लयमेष्यति, सर्वं जगदिदं त्वयि प्रत्येति। त्वं भूमिरापो नलो निलो नभः, त्वं चत्वारि वा आत्पदानि, त्वं गुणत्रयातीतः, त्वमवस्थात्रयातीतः, त्वं देहत्रयातीतः, त्वं कालत्रयातीतः, त्वं मूलाधारस्थितोऽसि नित्यं, त्वं शक्तित्रयात्मकः, त्वां योगिनो ध्यायन्ति नित्यं। त्वं ब्रह्मा त्वं विष्णुस्त्वं रुद्रस्त्वमिन्द्रस्त्वं अग्निस्त्वं वायुस्त्वं सूर्यस्त्वं चन्द्रमास्त्वं ब्रह्म भूर्भुवस्वरों गणादिं पूर्वमुच्चार्य वर्णादींस्तदनन्तरम् अनुस्वारः परतरः अर्धेन्दुलसितं तारेण ऋद्धम् एतत्तव मनुस्वरूपम्। गकारः पूर्वरूपम्, अकारो मध्यमरूपम्, अनुस्वारश्चान्त्यरूपम्, बिन्दुरुत्तररूपम्, नादः सन्धानम्, स्वगुंहिताः सन्धिः। सैषा गणेश विद्या गणक ऋषिः, विचृद्गायत्री छन्दः, गणपतिर्देवता। ओं गं गणपतये नमः। So we were looking at Ganapati as everything. The one who is manifest as this entire creation or Srishti or Jagat, whichever way we call it. So this Ganapati was looked upon as both who is manifest as this world, but still the one who transcends it. So that part we have to understand very clearly. Because philosophers talk of something called pantheism also, right? Pantheism means that God became this world, nature is God, all these concepts are there. But if God has become this world, God is no more God. God has become the world, correct? Like the milk has become... Let us say, okay? If the milk has become curd, where is milk now? We don't have milk anymore, correct? So that itself is a problem. The milk has become curd and we don't have curd anymore. So what do? If If you want milk again, you cannot go back to milk from curd. So God became this world, let us say, or Ishvara became this world. Now, where is Ishvara? Ishvara is still there or not? So that's why we say Ishvara is Vivarta Upadanam. Vivarta Upadanam means what? In Sanskritam we call it Vivarta Upadanam. I don't know in English what we can say. So there is an explanation for that in Sanskritam itself. Okay. Swaswarupa aparityagena rupantara apattihi. So it is better to understand that, I think, correct? Swaswarupa aparityagena. The other one is Swaswarupa parityagena. That is called Parinami Upadana. Parinami Upadana means, Parinami means that which has modified, changed itself. Like the milk has changed into curd. So milk is still the material cause of curd, but in the process of becoming curd, it has lost its nature, correct? It has changed. It has lost itself and then become curd. That is called Parinami Upadana. Swaswarupa Parityaga is there. One's own nature you give up and then become the other. But Vivarta Upadanam means what? Swaswarupa Aparityagena. You do not lose yourself, your nature, and still become the other. Like the gold became a bangle. See, gold becoming bangle means gold is still gold. You can always go to the pawnbroker. For the pawnbroker, the name and form is immaterial. He is a jnani with reference to gold. He is only seeing the substance, which is gold. And the weight of your chain, you look upon it as a bangle or a chain and all that. You have emotional attachment to that. But for the pawnbroker, the banker, if you want to take a loan on that, they only look upon it as gold. They have no emotions attached. They don't care about the names and forms. Only the weight counts. And the weight is of the weight of the gold. So gold can become bangle, gold can become chain, gold can become ring, any number of jewelry without losing its nature. It can become 1,000 different things. That is what is called Vivarta Upadanam. In fact, in reality, gold has not become anything. That is the beauty here, correct? The names and forms are all only appearances. In reality, gold is always gold. From the standpoint of gold, gold is always gold. In fact, there is no, in your understanding of gold, there is no ring, there is no chain. None of these things are there, correct? In your understanding of gold, gold is gold. But in your understanding of a golden chain, gold also is there, chain also is there. But that addition of the chain does not mean that gold has become something else or anything. It has not lost its nature. So that is what this Purnamadav Purnamidam also we say in every class, correct? At the end of the class we say, gold is already Purnam, complete, full. In its own fullness it is there. It is the limitless gold, let us say. In the golden world, gold is limitless. But it became a chain, it became a bangle, it became this dual world, which is nothing but names and forms and appearances. Purnamidam, idam jagat, whatever the world which we encounter, which is having various objects, so many different things, but all of this is only an appearance. In reality, that Purna Vastu, which has manifested as this Jagat, is not really having, or it has not really lost itself. It is still the same Purna Vastu. Okay? It is still the same thing. And it has not lost its nature. That is very important to understand. In fact, even while it is in the form of all these names and forms, it still transcends and it is still the same as itself, correct? That Atita you have to understand here. Everywhere we have an Atita. The Ganapati only is appearing as or manifesting as all the four forms of speech we saw, correct? Para, Pashyanti, Madhyama, Vaikhari and all that we discussed briefly. Or Ganapati only is manifesting as the Gunatraya, Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. That also we saw briefly. In fact, in Bhagavad Gita, there is a whole chapter on that. I would have told you, I think. So Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga, like that, there is a chapter. Bhagavan talks about gunas in detail there. And Ganapati is the one who is manifesting as the three states of experience. Everything is an experience for us. In the waking world, there is an experience. As a waker, I am experiencing the waking world. As a dreamer, I am experiencing the dream world. As the sleeper, the one who is sleeping, also I am experiencing. But I am experiencing the absence of the subject and object, correct? There is no subject-object division in sleep. But it's still an experience. In fact, I enjoyed it. In fact, I enjoy it so much that I want to sleep every night, correct? Nobody comes and complains saying that I don't get sleep. Please help me. Sorry, I'm sleeping very well. Please help me to stay awake. Like that, nobody goes to the doctor. Only if you have insomnia, you are not able to sleep, you have to go to the doctor. Or you are making so much preparation in the hope that you will sleep. So you are making a lot of effort to actually sleep. That means it is an experience, it's a desirable experience, it is something which you enjoy. Because when the subject-object resolves, in fact, there is no problem. All the problems are the individual's problem. Understand that. As soon as the subject is aware of an objective world which is separate from oneself, all the problem starts. Because you then become a limited individual who's aware of this entire creation which is so big. Whatever is not you is so big. You don't count in that also in reality. Physically, if you see, the cosmos is billions of light years wide or whatever, big. And you are not even a dot in that. So, that is not very comforting. But in reality, this whatever billions of light years space-time they talk about is all in you only. It's not separate from you. They are all appearances in you, in your conscious being only. Everything is appearing. So even while the world appearance is there and you are doing vyavahara, you are transacting in this world, even while that is happening, the truth is that you are the limitless consciousness who is the invariable in every cognition. You are the one who is the basis for both the subject-object. So that is why even when the subject-object resolves in sleep, you are very much there. Okay. So avasthatraya atitaha. So that's what this transcending you have to understand. Transcending means gold really transcends all the forms in which it is manifesting itself, correct? Same way you have to understand here. Because many people make this as though some kind of mystic thing. You have to go beyond and they'll show like this, maybe put their eyes up and all that. That doesn't mean anything really. What is this atita? What do you mean by transcending? We have to understand clearly. The transcending here is in your understanding of gold, there is no names and forms. That way it has transcended. Even while appearing as different names and forms, gold is gold. Its nature is different. Okay, that way it transcends all the names and forms. In fact, names and forms do not really count. So that part, all of you should be very clear. Dehatrayatitaha also. So along with the avastha, there are three dehas. Correct? So the waking world, we have the sthula sharira, sukshma sharira, karana, all three are there in the waking world. In dream world, we have only the Sukshma Sharira. Of course, within that there is a dream Sharira is still there, which can be considered as a physical Sharira of the dream, but that in reality is only your mind only, correct? Mind only is projecting that. And then even in sleep, we say that there is a Karana Sharira is there. That's why you wake up as the same individual. Otherwise, you won't wake up. I think you go to sleep, you will not wake up. So since you are waking up, and again you have to undergo your karma, we say. So all that jiva as a potential is still there even in sleep. So that is called Karana Sharira, the potential form. So that is, but Atma as a conscious entity transcends all these things. In fact, all these three things are Atma, but Atma is none of this. That is the beauty. See, another way of understanding this transcendental reality of Atma is my guru used to say, correct? Let us take Amitabh Bachchan. Amitabh Bachchan is a great actor, very popular in India. Okay, you watch Hindi movies, Amitabh Bachchan is still a great star. Okay, and he acts as a beggar. So when Amitabh Bachchan acts as a beggar, he is acting very well. He has studied so many different beggars in different places, and he is now bringing all those whatever expressions and however they are, all that he is bringing in while he is acting. Okay, let us say he is acting in a play. Drama is there. So Amitabh is acting as a beggar, but even while he is acting as a beggar, he is still Amitabh Bachchan. He doesn't lose himself. Correct? It's only a character. And as beggar, he is struggling, he is suffering, he is crying, he is asking for help from everybody. And his acting is so good, people are also applauding. And as Amitabh, at the same time, he is enjoying the applause. Correct? In fact, the role beggar, the character beggar is Amitabh Bachchan. So B is A. Swamiji used to say, correct? B is A, but A is not B. Amitabh is not a beggar. In fact, while acting as a beggar, he has earned another million rupees, let us say. Correct? So B is A, but A is not B. That is what is this Atita means. Is that clear? This transcendental reality is what? Even while Amitabh is acting as a beggar, the transcendental reality is Amitabh is a great, rich mega star. Okay, enjoying himself. He is enjoying the applause. He will be enjoying the money he is going to get by doing that act. So that is the transcendental reality. So B is A is not B. Keep that in mind. That's how we have to understand this Satyam Mithya. Mithya is Satyam. Because without the Satyam, there is no Mithya. Without the material, there is no pot. Or without the material, there is no jewelry. Correct? If you have a chain, bangle, ring, the gold has to be there. But gold by itself is none of these names and forms. In your understanding of gold, there is no chainness or ringness or bangleness or whatever. None of these ness are there. Gold is gold. That is the reality. So Satyam transcends the Mithya always. But Mithya is dependent on Satyam. There is no Mithya without the Satyam. Satyam only gives its very existence to the Mithya. So the words Satyam and Mithya are very important to understand in Vedanta. You don't have to The mithya need not vanish for you to understand Satyam also. Understand, this also is very important. Because it's not reality, understand that. It's only a change of the way you look at it. So like I told you, even while Amitabh is acting as a beggar, you can recognize Amitabh, correct? In fact, in Indian movies, this strange thing of double act, triple act and all is there. In the movie, nobody recognizes. But all the fans, we recognize that it's the same actor is acting in different roles in the same movie. Correct? We are all jnanis. So our standpoint, we recognize the reality behind the act always. Like that, even while the mithya is appearing, if you are able to appreciate Satyam, then you are jnani. You don't have, then you can still enjoy the mithya act, correct? There is no problem with that. There is no problem with the world in reality. Understand that. Neither the world is a problem, nor your mind is a problem. Many people are making mind as a villain. Mind is an instrument. Okay. The mind is not suffering. The nature of the mind is to go all over the place. Okay. So it can become a problem if you want to focus somewhere and you are not able to do that. Then you have to make some effort. But other than that, it's only an instrument for your use. As an individual, only you have problems. The mind has no problem of its own. Mind is jada, in fact. The individual who identifies with the mind is the one who is having the problem. The problem is centered on I. The solution also is centered on I. And the solution is to see I as I am. Correct? So, there is no problem in the world or in your mind or anything like that. It's a question of how we look upon ourselves. There has to be a transformation in the way I am looking at myself. Then all the problems you will see are not really there, in fact. Bhava Sagar Sukh Gayi, like that even Meera says in a bhajan. See, initially we talk about crossing the ocean of samsara, let us say. Ocean of this life of becoming is an ocean. But when the Guru teaches you, in fact, there is no ocean at all. It evaporates right in front of your eyes. There is no real ocean. There is nothing. It's all only an appearance. It just vanishes when you look at it as yourself. That is the beauty here. So Ganesha is the one who is appearing as all these things, even while being who he is, correct? Does not lose his nature. So Ganesha is also the one who transcends time, and he is at the same time he is also looked upon as somebody who is there in the Mooladhara chakra. So the 7 chakras are there in the body, and Ganesha is the one who is there in the Mooladhara. This is for Upasana purpose, purely for doing Upasana. And Ganesha also is the one who is appearing as all the Shakti, Icha Shakti, Kriya Shakti, Jnana Shakti. So this also we discussed briefly already. Even desire is also again put as some kind of a villain. Desiring is a privilege, understand that. And desire also is a manifestation of Ganesha. Even in Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan says, Dharma aviruddha kamosmi bharatarshabha. But without kama, there is no srishti. Taittiriya Upanishad, all Upanishads talk about this, correct? So kamayata bahusyam praja yeyeti satapo tapyata satapas taptva idagum sarvam asrijata. Like that, this whole srishti, first is what? So kamayata. The Brahmaji desired, Ishvara desired, and then everything starts. He decided that let me become many. And then the whole thing got created. So that's a privilege. Desiring is a Shakti. Ishvara has the Icha Shakti, that same Shakti only is now available to us. And then Ishvara created the world. Ishvara has Kriya Shakti also. And Ishvara is Sarvajnaha. Jnana Shakti is there anyway. We also have that. So it's all a privilege. It is Ishvara Shakti only we are having. The ability to desire, ability to do, ability to know. All these powers are vested in us. It's a great privilege. It's not a problem again. If you use it properly, everything is a great privilege only. So desire also is not a problem. It's a matter whether your desires are managing you or you are managing your desires. It depends on that part, correct? So the whole life is lived only to make you mature. A life of karma yoga is prescribed so that you are free from your binding likes and dislikes. You manage your desires and not they manage you. You are not a slave of your likes and dislikes. Then desires are a privilege. And all these yogis, they are the ones who are also doing upasana on you all the time, correct? They are visualizing you, they are thinking of you. Yoginaha dhyayanti nityam tvam. So all the yogis also, the dhyana yogis, they are all doing dhyana of you only, and you are all the devatas. So we have 33 crore devatas, or in other ways we have to say it is 330 million devatas are there. Now what is all this devata? Do we have many gods? So this is another problem. You go somewhere, particularly to US or somewhere west, they will ask you how many gods you have. Our people don't know what to say. Okay. Also somehow in Indian education also an idea is given as though monotheism is better than whatever polytheism. They talk in school also, they say the thought, how the human thought has progressed. Initially there was polytheism and then it became pantheism or whatever, and then monotheism is the evolved thought and all that. I think monotheism is barbarism. It is the worst thing which has happened to this world. Okay, because monotheism means you say one God means what? All other gods are false God. Your God is the only true God. Jealous God. All these things are all monotheism. Problem. In fact, one is a problem. One means again what about 2, 3, 4, everything will come, correct? As soon as you say one, all other numbers come into the picture. So there is a God, there is a devil, Satan, all these things are also coming into the picture. They are all equally real. And other people's God are all false gods. All these ideas are coming only due to monotheism. Understand that. It's a very low level of thinking, I think. At least the polytheistic people are better. They can accommodate one more God. They can live in harmony with each other. So it is a more evolved thought. Correct? So polytheism is better. In fact, our thought process has degraded, I think. If we say that from polytheism we came to monotheism, means it is a degradation of our thought only. But what is our real vision? Vedic vision, is it polytheistic, monotheistic? How can we talk about Vishnu, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, Ganapati? All of them we are talking about as though they are the only one and all that, correct? That is the beauty of our vision, in fact. If you understand this vision, everything else becomes meaningful in our religious life, in our cultural life. This is the only thing you have to understand. What is that? We have, in fact, only God. So my guru used to say, we do not have many gods. We do not have one God. We have only God. God alone is manifest as this entire Srishti. That's what we are seeing here. Whether it is the 5 elements, 3 gunas, 3 avasthas, whatever you say, space, time, everything, including your body, mind, sense complex. Don't leave yourself out of that. That is another problem. Whatever is manifest as your own mind, body, etc. also is Ishvara only. Ishvara alone is manifest as all these things. So there is only God. If you say there is only God, it is not a matter for belief anymore. Understand that. You have to understand it. In fact, it is a matter to be understood. There is only God. Means I have to understand that. Only God is there. So where is God if somebody asks? Hey, I can only show if that God is separate from you. Correct? As God is there or here or there. God is not located anywhere. Understand? God is manifest as the very space-time. God is also manifest as yourself. So try to understand that. It's a matter to be understood. The more we understand that everything is manifest as Ishvara, the more Ishvara we see. In fact, even relatively, you will have better peace and all that, correct? You are able to accept. The more we accept the world as it is, the more peaceful you are. Otherwise, you are struggling all the time to change the world, which is not going to happen. Okay. So it is a question of understanding how Ishvara is manifest as everything. So when we say only Ishvara is there, then how we will say 330 million Devatas, because Devata is also translated as gods in English. English is a problem. You see, Devata means the same Ishvara you are looking at through a particular phenomenon. That is called Devata. For everything we have an Adhisthana Devata in our vision. You take your own body. Every Indriya has an Adhisthana Devata. Vak, speech. Means the Adhisthana Devata is Agni. Because speech is a phenomenon. And Agni. And Agni can throw light and also heat. And I think your speech also can do the same thing. Correct? It can throw light. It can enlighten somebody. Or it can agitate somebody. It can also throw heat. It can make somebody hot. So speech, the Adhisthana Devata is Agni, fire. For sight, the Adhisthana Devata is Aditya, sun. That's why if you have, see, that's why we also have specific prayers and generic prayers. Okay, my guru used to say, like, there are general spectrum drugs are there. Okay, which will go and kill everything, all the microbes, which is not really good in one way, correct? There are antibiotics are also there like that. Or there are specific drugs are there which only act on a certain germ or whatever, let us. Like that, even in prayer we have broad spectrum generic prayer. Sarve bhavantu sukhinaha. In fact, we say this every day in our temple also. Everywhere, many people say this prayer, correct? We have a very nice prayer. Sarve bhavantu sukhinaha. May everybody be happy, correct? Sarve santu niramayaha. May everyone be free of diseases. Sarve bhadrani pashyantu. May everyone see auspicious things. Ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet. No one should be a dukkha bhag. No one should have dukkha, pain, hurt, sadness. Like that we have a prayer. But then you can have specific prayer. You chant Aditya Hridayam. If you have eyesight, problem with eyesight, we say you pray to the Adhisthana Devata. So the same Ishvara, when looked at from the standpoint of a particular phenomenon, is a Devata. So even within our body, only all these Devatas are sitting. That's what we say. Because our body itself is having all these things, correct? It has sight, it has the sense of smell, it has the ability to speak, it has the ability to whatever do. We have all this Shakti. So when we look upon ourselves, we should not see just ourselves as a physical being or anything. In fact, we are a bundle of Shakti. It's a privilege given to us. Ishvara is manifesting through me as all this Shakti. And I have to channelize it properly, that's all. All this Shakti is available. Correct? All this is a manifestation of Ishvara, and it's a privilege which is there with us. We have to only manifest it properly. So when you look upon your body and then see that all these devatas themselves are there in your body, they are only making your body function, correct? We think that we are somebody great and all that. People have ego, but they cannot even digest something. You give them something. Bhagavan is sitting there as the digestive fire and digesting food. Otherwise, what are you going to do? You don't even have ability to digest anything by yourself. It's all Bhagavan only is doing that for you. So all these devatas are all, Ishvara is manifest as all these devatas. All these phenomena. Anything which is happening, it is looked upon as a phenomena, and there is a devata. So that way also we can see, this is all to only make you understand that everything is a manifestation of this one reality. So you can have 330 million phenomena, devatas, but all of them are really nothing but manifestation of that Ishvara alone, because there is only Ishvara for us. And that Ishvara, every form being Ishvara's form. This formless is another problem. Many people have another ego. Spiritual means they say, no, I don't worship idols. I do formless. God is formless. What is this formless? That is also nonsense, I think. You cannot really have a puja for formless, correct? How are you going to have an altar for formless? Or even if you have a name, then it becomes a form. It's a sound form, sound symbol, correct? Or you have to face some direction and pray, means that is also a form. Form is there everywhere. In fact, you cannot avoid form and then talk about formless and all that without any understanding. You can say that God, Ishvara, transcends all forms. That is fine. But you cannot pray to that. Formless is something to be understood. More than formless, Ishvara is free of all forms, even while manifesting as all forms. So in fact, all forms are Ishvara's form, so we can invoke Ishvara in any form. Understand that. Ishvara is equally pervading everything in this Srishti. So we have the freedom to invoke Ishvara in any form. Whether it is a sound symbol or whatever physical symbol made up of some matter. That's why we can have a turmeric lump and invoke Ganesha in that. No problem for us. Afterwards, so all puja, all upasana is what? You invoke Ishvara, you in fact avahanam, you invite. Ahvaya means what? To invite somebody. So when we do some puja, we are inviting Ishvara, please come. I am doing ava. I first, in fact, I visualize you. Dhyanam. Correct? Then you chant. So Ganapati also. We chant. In our temple, we have a particular form of Ganapati, means there is a dhyana for that. Bija, Pura, Gadekshu, Karmuka, Ruja, like that. So the one who is holding Bija Puram means this pomegranate. Okay, because it is filled with seeds, correct? That's why it is called Bija Puram. Pomegranate is holding in one hand, it's saying. Gada, he is holding another mace in one hand. Ikshu Karmuka, he is holding sugarcane, this bow. Like that, we visualize, because Ganapati with 10 arms and one trunk and all that, and in each arm what Ganapati is holding, all that you chant and you visualize. And then say, please, that Ganapati, you come and sit in this turmeric lump or in this whatever vigraha we have. In fact, we even do prana pratishtha. We bring that Ishvara's prana here as though. Or many times we don't do prana. Prana pratishtha is initially done in a temple consecration. In home puja also you can do every day if you want. Or you can simplify it. Nowadays, not many people know how to do it, so they don't do it. And then what? Once you do that, Ishvara is there. That lump of turmeric is no more turmeric. Understand that. Nobody is praying to the turmeric. Turmeric is only, it is, see, idol worship is another problem. They think that really you are praying to turmeric or some form and all that, correct? If you are really praying to turmeric, then we cannot do yatasthanam pratishtapayami and then the turmeric can end up in sambar also, correct? Or we do, even in Ganesh Chaturthi now, they have all this Ganesha Vigraha everywhere. On all street corners we have. And then they do Visarjana, correct? After 10 days puja, Yatasthanam, you can send Ganesha back from that. And then now it has now become only turmeric or whatever clay, lump of clay. You can go and put it somewhere. So when we do this puja, upasana, in any form we can invoke Ishvara. We have that freedom. That's why Ishta Devata. If your Ishta Devata is Ganapati, Ganapati is Brahman. Ganapati is everything. Ganapati is the only one who is there here, who is manifest as everything. We have no confusion here, no conflict. If your Ishta Devata is Shiva, then Shiva is everything for you. Ishta Devata is Narayana, Vishnu. Vishnu is everything. Correct? Where is the conflict here? We can invoke Ishvara in any form. That is why we have this Ishta Devata, this great freedom. Today being Independence Day and freedom and all that, we have this great freedom to invoke Ishvara with any name, any form. Even human beings have so many different names, correct? You have a formal name, you have a pet name, nickname. You go to college, you have a different name. In my college, I was known as some other name. Nobody even knew my full name properly. Everybody is known only by their nickname. Your wife will call you in a particular manner, particularly in India. So many wives don't tell their husband's name. Instead, they will say something. Okay, or they have a unique way of calling. So you respond to all these names. Then what about Ishvara? Or if I want to gain your attention, I can just tap you on your shoulder. Correct? Or I can touch you even on your finger. Little finger is good enough. I can gain your attention. I don't have to do a full body massage. Then only you will show your attention. Nothing like that. You are pervading your entire body. I can invoke you by touching anywhere in your body. Similarly, Ishvara is all pervading, is manifest as all forms. I can invoke Ishvara in any form. All forms are Ishvara's form. There is no issue in that, correct? So there is only Ishvara. That is our vision. Once this vision is clear, everything else is clear. Everything else flows from there. We can invoke Ishvara with form. We can invoke, but we can understand that in reality, Ishvara transcends form, formless. Your notions of form and formless and all that also Ishvara transcends. That's why we even have this Spatika Linga is there, correct? It is in between. Spatika Linga is showing you a form, but it is transparent. So at the same time, you understand that Ishvara is really is not bound by any form also. Even while being in a form, even in Tamil we have, there is a Uruvai, Aruvai, Uladai, Iladai, like that beautiful song is there, a poem on, this is on Kartikeya, Muruga. So Uruvai, Aruvai, you are in the form of all the forms. You are the formless also. See, that's the beauty. Then it becomes a matter to be understood. Uladai, Iladai, you are the one who is there, manifest as all these things which I am seeing. And you are the one who is unmanifest also. The unmanifest potential reality also is you. Correct? In fact, Satyam itself is looked upon as Sat and Tyat. Sat Chatyacha Bhavati. Like that, even in Taittiriya Upanishad, it is there. Okay. So, you are all that is there here. All the devatas are you. Okay, and you are the all the Vyahritis also. Bhur Bhuva Swaha. Bhur. See, when we chant any mantra, there is a bija is there normally. Okay, so bija is typically only like a few syllables. It's a single syllable, but it can be of different matras, lengths. Om is a bija. Om itself can be looked upon as a bija, as a seed sound. And it is of 3 matras, correct? Om, when you chant, normally it is for, it is a length of 3. And then from that Om, the bija, then we have 3 more syllables coming out. Bhuhu, Bhuvaha, Swaha. So they are called Vyahriti. They have come out. Excuse me. Okay. So this Bhuhu, Bhuha, Swaha. So you are these Vyahritis, you are also Om. Bhur, Bhuva, Swarom. So Bhu, Bhuvaha, Swaha also are looked upon as 3 lokas also. Bhuloka, Bhuvarloka, Swarloka. Okay. So this Om only the bija, the seed, that seed syllable has now become 3, and then those 3 again become each pada of the Gayatri mantra. So that's why when we chant the Gayatri, we first say Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha, then the actual mantra starts. Correct? So Om becomes Bhuhu Bhuvaha Swaha, then again Bhuhu Bhuvaha Swaha becomes each of those padas of Gayatri mantra, and that is the mantra is the Vyakta, is the actual manifest form. And when it is becoming unmanifest seed, it becomes Om. From Om only this whole mantra has come. That's how we look at it. And we chant. And then the mantra sadhana itself is supposed to lead you back into the bija and make you understand that both the manifest and unmanifest are really one reality. So that is the idea of all our sadhanas. So here, once having talked about the reality of Ganesha, we are now going into the Ganapati Upasana. So a Ganapati mantra is now introduced for that Upasana. The mantra is Om Gang Ganapataye Namaha. Gang, Gam or Gang is the bija there. Okay. So the Gam initially is there as the bija mantra. See here, Om Gang Ganapataye Namaha. So this Gam or Gang is there. Now that is defined, that is explained here. Okay, Ganadim Purva Mucharya. So Gana, Ganapati means Gana. Gana is there. Gana Adi means what? The first letter of Gana, first alphabet of Gana. You say first Purva Mucharya, you say that G, that is the Gana. Okay, Gakara is the Gana Adi. Gakara, the syllable, the consonant Ga, Gakara, is first you have to pronounce that when you have to chant the Ganapati mantra. First you start with Gakara, followed by Varna Adi. Varna Adi means what? Of all the alphabets, the beginning, the first one is A, correct? You open your mouth, the only sound which comes is A, correct? So Ig plus A, Ga, so you start with Ga, Okay, so the akara follows it. Tadanantaram varnadi. Then anuswara parataraha. Then anuswara follows that, the final one. Now, what is this anuswara? See, anuswara, again in English, or those who are not familiar with Indian languages may struggle a little bit, but it is basically a nasal sound. Even in India, Indians also have wrong notion about this anuswara. Many people chant anuswara always as sound. It is not makara. Understand that. It's not always makara. Anuswara is a nasal sound, and actually how we pronounce it depends on what is there before, after, and all that. Is that clear? And in fact, it even varies, particularly when you are doing Vedic chanting. It varies by that Veda Shaka also. There is each Veda Shaka, they have their own rules of pronunciation. That is there in a book called Pratishakyam. Each Veda has its own Pratishakyam. So even though the same mantra is there, when it comes in Rig Veda, it will be pronounced differently. In Krishna Yajurveda, it is different. In Shukla Yajurveda, it is different because they all have their own Pratishakya. So Krishna Yajurveda is the most popular form nowadays because everybody is chanting all these suktas, Rudram, Chamakam, all these things based on the Krishna Yajurveda. They are all from Krishna Yajurveda, so those rules are also like that. So in Krishna Yajurveda, the Anuswara, when it is followed by Sakara, like that Varga, becomes Gum. Idagum Sarva Masrijata. I told you, right? Even Taitriya I quoted. This is Krishna Yajurveda. Idam Sarvam only it is actually. When you read it, it is Idam Sarvam. But when we chant, how do we chant? Idagum Sarva Masrijata. Or sometimes it becomes Gis also. The Gum can become Gis. Okay. So there are rules for all that. So Anuswara is a nasal sound. And how we pronounce it, for that different rules are there. It is not im always. See, even in Vedic Sanskrit also there are rules. Even in classical Sanskrit, even Panini has a sutra, Monuswara ha. Like that, those who are Panini and grammarians can go and check. Monuswara ha, there is a sutra. So he says Anuswara becomes Makara only under certain conditions. Okay, when it is the end of the sentence, last alphabet in a word or sentence means it can become Makara. Otherwise, Anuswara is represented with a dot, or it is also represented with a Chandra Bindu and all that. Okay. Particularly when you want to see, there are three things are there. We have to understand. There is an Anunasika is there. Correct. Anunasika means what? In each Varga, there is a nasal sound. So Ka Varga is there. Correct. Ka, Kha, Ga, Gha, Nga. That is the nasal Anunasika of that Ka Varga. Nga. We have to say Nga. There the effort comes from your throat, but then you leave the air through your nose rather than the mouth. So the Ka becomes Nga when it goes through the nose. Then what? Cha, cha, ja, jha, nya. Nya is there. Or before that, there's ta, tha, da, dha, na. So you have to roll your tongue and say ta, tha, da, dha, na. Correct? That is called Murdhanya. Whatever the Ka Varga is called Kanthya because it is coming from throat. Murdhanya means it is coming from the top of your mouth. Correct? You have to roll your tongue towards your skull. That is called Murdhanya. Murdha. It is coming from Murdha means the top part of your mouth is called Murdha. So Kanthavya, Murdhanya, like that, from the place where the sound comes, they get the names also in Sanskrit grammar. It is beautiful. You can go and read. There is a Shiksha Shastra is there. So all this, in fact, there are many Shiksha Shastras themselves. Paniniya Shiksha also is there. So, so each Varga has its own Anunasika, nasal sound. And similarly, we saw Cha, Cha, Ja, Ja. Then Ta, Ta, Da, Dha, Na. pa pa ba bha ma also is there. Correct? So each varga has its anunasika. So the anuswara can become one of these anunasika sounds also, depending on what is following. Okay, and it can become other sounds also. For example, if the anuswara is followed by a y, ya, correct, ya, yakara, it becomes e. That is the sound you have to give. Okay, you should not, for example, triambakai yajamahe, you have to say triambakai. It's not triambakam yajamahe. See, many people chant it as triambakam yajamahe sugandhim pushtivardhanam. There is a mantra is there, right? Triambakam mantra is there. Mrityunjaya mantra it is. But it is not really triambakam. As per the rules, that anuswara, when followed by yakara, has to become triambakai yajamahe sugandhim pushtivardhanam. It is e. Like that you have to give the sound. Triambakai yajamahe. Not triambakam. There is no makara there, really speaking. Anuswara becomes that yakara is following that, so it gets a sound in between there, along with the yakara. If anuswara is followed by a pa varga, obviously it will become ma, because that is the anunasika or the nasal sound of that varga. Okay, or anuswara ends and nothing is following afterwards, then it becomes makara as per the Paniya Sutra, monuswara. But otherwise, anuswara can take different sounds depending on rules and what is following it. Also, if what is following is a vowel, normally it becomes makara again. Okay. So like this, there are rules are there. So anuswara is basically a nasal sound, and it can take different actual pronunciation or different sounds depending on what is there following. So anyway, so anuswara parataraha. So even here, om gam ganapate, you should not say. The anuswara is followed by gakara, correct? So it will be om gang ganapataye namaha. Gang, not gum. It's not om gam ganapataye namaha. No, om gang ganapataye namaha. Gang is the sound. Gang, ngakara. Kaka, kakha, gagha, nga. Nga is the sound. So anuswara parataraha ardhe endulasitam tarena riddham. Like that it continues. So this Ganganapataye Namaha itself, Ardha Indu Lasitam. So that Ardha Indu means this beautiful moon. It is that Chandra Bindu only they are talking about here. So normally we put a Chandra Bindu kind of a symbol if the following letter, that varga's anunasika, you have to say. Even amsha, even in Indian language, in Devanagari script, the amsha, we don't put one dot. We put one line like this and put a dot within that. That is called a Chandra Bindu. Okay, so there, like a half moon, we put a curve and then put a dot in that. And then Tarena Riddham. Tara also there is a concept. Okay. The way we pronounce the sound, correct? It should not be too short. It should not be too long and all that. When you say Gang Ganapataye Namaha, that Gang should be there for the right duration. You should not say Ganganapataye Namaha or Gang Ganapataye Namaha. You cannot prolong it. You cannot make it too short. So it is complete, it is full only when you pronounce it correctly. The Gang sound has to be there for only that period. Even Om, when you say, I told you it has to be 3 matras, correct? When you say it for the right matras, only that sound is complete. Many people nowadays chant Om as Aum and all that, which is also totally wrong. Okay, there is no Aum, it is Om only. For analysis purpose, we can break it into A, U, Ma and all that and say that we can overload, superimpose 3 things for upasana purpose, but not for pronunciation. Pronunciation is always Om for 3 matras, length of 3, correct? Om is fine. Or sometimes prolonged Om also we can do as a meditation. Dirgha Omkara is prescribed for sannyasis particularly to do dhyana. Omkara dhyana is prescribed, is very, it's good in one way, but that's different. But generally Om means how you have to chant. There are rules for that. We have to follow that. And when you chant it with the right amount of length, and then it is complete in itself. Riddham here means it is complete. Samriddham also we say, correct? It is full. Complete means you have to chant it in the correct length and correct form. Then it becomes complete. So like this, then it continues. Manuswarupam. Manu means actually mantra. So this is your mantra swarupa. That gam is there, correct? Gang. That is the mantra swarupa. That is the mantra rupa of Ganapati. Manu means here actually mantra. Manu has a meaning of mantra also. Don't think it is Manu like Manu Dharma Shastra. Not that. Manu is different. Here Manu means mantra actually. So this gang is your mantra swarupa. That is the bija really. And then that only becomes later on in bigger form is Ganapataye Namaha. So the bijam gam becomes Ganapataye Namaha. So all that is explained here. And whenever we chant a mantra, we have to always remember the Rishi, the Chandas, and the Devata. So that is the tradition. That is called Nyasa. When we remember them, those details are also given here. So next week we will go more into actual this. After this we will go fast. I think maybe in a couple of weeks we will finish, or even next week we can finish. Only Phalashruti and all is there. We will see that next week. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
धन्यवाद
धन्यवाद गुरुजी.
धन्यवाद.
You asked a question, correct?
धन्यवाद गुरुजी.
धन्यवाद जी.